Are you guys in the right state of mind? Let's go.
These are fragments of a video not fully seen in public before that reveal brutal facts long denied by the US military. Let's go back to the horrific dusk of August 26, 2021. An ISIS bomb outside Kabul airport tears through a packed crowd. 170 Afghans and 13 American military are killed in the largest casualty event there in a decade. A moment of acute savagery at the end of America's longest war. But it's been mired in dispute ever since. 2 Pentagon investigations have insisted everyone was killed by the bomb and dismissed dozens of Afghans' accounts to CNN 2 years ago that Afghan civilians were shot in the chaotic aftermath.
No definitive proof that anyone was ever hit or killed by gunfire.
But this new video, which begins outside the airport's Abbey Gate entrance, reveals much more shooting after the blast than the Pentagon said. Combined with new accounts to CNN of Marines opening fire and gunshot injuries in Afghan civilians, it challenges the rigour and reliability of the 2 Pentagon investigations that declared no Afghan civilians were shot dead in the chaotic aftermath. The bomb detonates. The footage then stops and picks up 3 seconds later.
You good? You good?
Watch out, the tailbone on the backside, right here, right here.
All right.
Hey.
I got that on film, dude. They're breaking through. Is that all right, guys? Hey. Get out, reduce security.
Many Marines here were young, some on their first deployment. The gunfire starts. They run for cover. This long burst is about 17 shots, bringing us a total of 20. We're tallying shots fired and episodes of fire based on 2 forensic analyses on screen. You cannot see who is still firing here, and we never see Marines or anyone firing in this video. Short, controlled bursts in isolation. The CS gas canister has exploded in the blast, its gas choking this Marine. And in a moment, the total episodes of gunfire you've heard will start being more than the 3 the Pentagon has said happened.
Hey, you good? Right here.
The gunfire continues. We leap forward 27 seconds as Afghans, arms raised, run into the airport.
No, it's just smoke and dirt, bro.
One burst, now another.
Is that the f***ing TB, bro?
They wonder if the Taliban, the TB, is shooting. 2 Marines told us they saw the Taliban just after the blast, looking as shocked as they were.
Oh. Come here, come here, come here. You good? Yeah, I'm fine. Hey, where's I need accountability. We're pushing them back there for sure. Any casualties, we're pushing
More
back.
shots.
Get down. Are you good? Hey,
Multiple Marines we spoke to who were there said they felt they were under fire. But the Pentagon has insisted for 2 years no militant gunmen opened fire here. They've said the only shots fired here were 2 bursts by US Marines and 1 from UK troops, once in a big burst from a nearby tower, all bursts near simultaneous. So, according to their investigations, we must be hearing Marines or the British firing here. More controlled shots. Jump forwards another 39 seconds and more shots.
Hey.
They're still absorbing what happened.
There's a f***ing IED, bro.
15 seconds later, more shooting.
Mother. Hey, you guys good? Hey, hey, look at me, look at me. Are you guys in the right state of mind? Let's go.
They head out into the chaos to help. You've just seen and heard at least 43 shots fired in at least 11 episodes of shooting. It matters, as it is just short of 4 minutes of sporadic fire, most of which the Pentagon has said for 2 years did not happen. And that shows their narrative of this horrific and disputed event is wrong. This is how terrifying it was for Afghans outside minutes after the blast. So who was shooting and who were they firing at? For the first time, a Marine eyewitness has come forward and told CNN the first big burst of gunfire at the start of the GoPro video you just saw came from where US Marines were standing near the blast site. We're using a different voice to hide his identity as he fears reprisals for describing the gunfire.
It was multiple. There's no doubt about that. It wasn't onesies and twosies. It was a mass volume of gunfire.
Down towards the Abbey Gate sniper tower, from roughly an area not too far away from where the blast had gone off. That's where you heard the shooting emanate from.
It would have been around that area, yes.
And there were US Marines, right? This was likely emanating from Marines on the ground.
Yes.
You think they fired into the crowd?
I couldn't tell you for certain.
But they wouldn't have fired into the air, right?
No, they would not have fired into the air.
Because you had a specific no warning shots order, right?
It wasn't a direct order, but it was a common understanding. No warning shots. These are kids. They're young, and they've only been taught what they've been taught. Some of these kids have been with the unit for quite literally 2-3 months prior to deployment.
And when you see the investigations, plural, the conclusions they've made that say anybody who talks about gunfire or people being shot are just the product of traumatic brain injury, misremembering. How do you feel about that?
It's a pathetic excuse. To say that every Marine, every soldier, every Navy corpsman on the deck has a traumatic brain injury and cannot remember gunfire is lunacy. It's outright disrespectful, and especially for it to come from somebody who wasn't there.
So what did the other Marines who were there have to say? 10 other Marines who didn't go on camera told us they heard gunfire. A couple even said they saw a gunman, but 2 others stand out who we were unable to reach ourselves. Ronald Finley was injured and in an interview with a former Marine turned barber said he didn't see shooting and his recollections are fuzzy, bar one moment he remembers vividly.
As my squad leader's pulling me out, I remember as we're walking past, as he's like buddy carrying me walking past, I see my platoon sergeant walk past us saying, "Get back on that wall and shoot back at the." So I'm like, oh, we're in a gunfight too.
Another survivor, Christian Sanchez, carried out here, injured in his left arm, also told the barber he shot someone who he thought was shooting at him.
Like, all I hear is ringing and flashes going on, and then I start hearing snaps. And I start realizing that's a dude shooting at me. I just started shooting at the dude. And while I was shooting, I remember like looking at the guy, and he's like, I don't know, he's just there. And then he literally looks like he ate shit. Like I'm looking at him, and like around him I could see impacts.
So what of the Afghans themselves, 170 of whom died? The Pentagon has insisted all injuries and deaths were from the bomb and its ball bearings. But CNN has wide-ranging evidence pointing to many Afghans being shot. 2 years ago, we heard 19 eyewitness accounts from Afghan survivors who saw people shot or were shot themselves, supported by 13 medical reports of bullet wounds. Afghan medical staff also told us they counted dozens of dead from gunfire. Key was Saeed Ahmadi, head doctor at the Kabul hospital treating most of the wounded, whose team assessed the injuries of the dead as they lay out in the parking lot that night.
You still think back about that night? Or sometimes?
Of course.
Back then, he was afraid to speak openly, but he now is safe with asylum in Finland and wanted to say on camera how he pulled bullets out of patients, how his team counted over 50 dead from gunfire, and how his many years treating combat injuries meant he can diagnose a bullet wound.
Explosion injuries come with severe injuries, even lots of hole in the bodies. But the people who were shot at, they had just 1 or 2 holes. Exact in the chest or in the head. 170 people were killed totally, but the register what we had maybe 145.
And by your estimation, about half?
More than half, I think, were killed by gunshot.
Yet the night would get darker still. Ahmadi started getting phone calls in the local language Dari, threatening him and his staff to stop looking into who had been shot.
He told me, "What are you doing, doctor? And do you love your life? Do you love your families? This is not good. When you're collecting that data, it would make danger situation for you. And you should stop that as soon as possible."
So, when you hear the American investigation say that you're just wrong, that you don't know what you're talking about.
I wonder, I hope one day they ask me or they call me what you saw. Like you came here and asked me, you came to Kabul and asked me about the situation. They never asked me.
Even though we described the video and our findings in great detail to the Pentagon, they said they would need to examine any new unseen video before they could assess it. They said their first investigation had thoroughly looked at allegations of outgoing fire from US and coalition forces following the blast. They said their review, released earlier this month, focused not on gunfire but the bomber and events leading up to the blast, but found no new evidence of a complex attack and uncovered no new assertions of outgoing fire, having no materialistic impact on the original investigation. Investigators have also not interviewed any Afghans for their reports, the Pentagon said, leaving the question of how hungry for the truth are they. Nick Payton-Walsh, CNN, London.